Happy Thursday, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good week. And tonight we are discussing the transition to the other side. So before I get into that, I just want everybody to know tomorrow is the beginning of Friday Nights with Phil. Anybody that's coming, I'll be here around 6:30. So the beginning of our new Friday night. So tonight I chose this topic. Hello, everybody. Oh, I'm by myself. Jasper is traveling. So Jasper's traveling, and I chose this topic tonight because it's something that I've been wanting to explain to people about the transition of the soul and what happens. And again, each topic that I choose has everything to do with what I'm experiencing in the week that we talked from last week. Also, most importantly, about what I have learned from the other side. So this is Phil's opinion, not his opinion, is what I've viewed and seen throughout my years of doing this. First, this happened to me on the first thing I saw way back in the day, before I even knew about transitioning of the souls, before I even knew that the soul takes a journey to the other side, before I knew any of all this, I remember I was looking to rent a place. I think I was in Danbury, and I know I was in Danbury, and I was looking at the house, and all of a sudden the house changed just like that, and it went back like 15 years. And it was for a split second. I saw all different kinds of furniture, and I saw a completely different arrangement of what the furniture was there. And then boom, I was right back to where I was. But in that instance, I saw a set of feet hanging right here at my eyes. And I knew somebody had passed in that house. So what happened was I had walked into their energy zone. And as I walk into their energy zone, my energy and their energy overlaps, and I get this glimpse of what happened to their lives before they passed over, or how their life ended before they passed over. So people think that we die, we leave the body, and boom, we're on the other side. And that is not true. That's not what happens. And I rarely come across souls that remain earthbound, but I want to explain this to you guys. Some people say, Phil, I'm not getting the signs that some other people get. Or Phil, I'm getting tons of signs and I don't know why. And there's a reason why. Depending on the manner of death, the soul's transition is either going to be quick or it's going to be slow. So if you had somebody passing from an illness and everybody got to say goodbye and everybody got to give their kisses and whatever it may be, then the soul will often call for a family member or mention the name of a family member who's already deceased, and you'll see them reaching for them or talking about them, and that's the other side beckoning them to come to the other side, and they want them to come to the light. So what happens is within that time, the soul rises up out of its sick body and then it crosses to the light. So, and now we have a full transition. The soul's on the other side. They can get to be with their family and then they get to see everything that's here. However, there are circumstances when the soul is not ready to go. The death has been accidental. The death has been unexpected. The death has been somehow sudden or whatever it may be. The death has been tragic. So what happens is, all of a sudden, the soul is outside the body, and it doesn't realize, oh no, what's happening here? I see myself laying on the ground, but I'm standing here. Why is this taking place? So then what happens is, with the soul, it sees the light, and it says, I don't want to go to that light because it's strange to the individual. It's strange to the person that's passed because they're used to this physical body. They also want to see their children, they want to see their parents, they want to see their friends, they want to see all of this. Depending, again, if this death is tragic and or sudden, person dies of a heart attack, person dies of an OD, somebody takes their life, somebody's shot, whatever the situation may be. So now we go through what is called the soul remain. It says, I'm not going to that big white light. And that big white light scares me. And there's a reason why it scares you. I'm trying to show you a picture that I was going to use and it accidentally got screwed up. So the picture looks like this. I don't know if anybody can see that. That's terrible because of the glare, but anyway, this isn't working. But anyway, it's a big white light like this. So all of a sudden you see this big white light. You're not going to go running into it and saying, woohoo, big white light. The soul can say, wait, I need to take a minute here. So what happens is we go through the funeral process. And through the funeral process, the soul remains connected to the people that they've lost, their spouse, their family, their siblings, whoever it may be. And then they start trying to give physical signs to say, hi, I'm here. And we start getting a lot of signs from the other side because they're frantic to say, I'm with you, I don't understand what happened. I'm here, I'm not sure what happened. So people will say, Phil, well, why wouldn't their loved ones just come bring them over? Well, if they die young, they may not have loved ones that they know on the other side. They may not have friends on the other side. And here's the biggest reason why some souls remain earthbound for a while before they cross over to the other side. You still have human emotions. You can still feel me, talk to me, hear me. You can go through the grieving process with me. You can hug me if I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling lost or I'm feeling depressed or whatever the situation may be. So the soul can also feel this. When it crosses to the other side, the soul no longer has earthly feelings but has complete understanding of what we're going through. So if the death was sudden, or if the person wasn't willing to go or ready to go, or if somebody was fighting to stay alive and they believed they were going to beat the disease and then something else went wrong and took them, they're going to go through the grieving process with you. So many people say, Phil, I often feel them hold me at night. There's a reason why we want the soul to cross over to the other side, because here's what happens. The more signs you get after somebody's just passed away, and as much as you feel close to them, it also can delay your healing process. So, and this is the biggest reason why souls have to cross over, but they don't know that necessarily in the beginning. It'll delay your healing process because you can still feel the individual that you've lost. You're still having dreams of them, and these are vivid dreams, and these are lucid dreams because you're communicating with the soul that you have passed over. So, and the soul doesn't want to let that go because they can still feel their children, they can still feel their husband or wife, they can still feel their mother or siblings, whatever it may be. So they remain here for as long as they possibly can. And what happens is when you guys come in for a reading, the way I know of a soul is new to, meaning just passed over, or if they've been over a while, is they cut in and out. It's kind of like a bad internet connection, and I can tell that they're just recently crossed over because they're not sure how to do this. So how do we get a soul that you've just lost and your heart is devastated? You were devastated as an individual. How do you get a soul to cross over? Secondly, why would you want to let that go? Because the soul doesn't realize that they can do more on the other side than they can here earthbound. They're limited to what they're doing earthbound. Now, when you hear the word earthbound, don't think that this is a negative. Don't say, oh, my family member's earthbound and this is a very bad thing. You have no control over this. It's the soul's decision to cross over to the other side and or remain here. So what happens is often a family member and or an angel or a guide or someone, let's just say the person died if they were young. Another young individual would come and get them. Let's say they died of an overdose, let's say they died in a car accident, let's say they were murdered, let's say whatever the situation. Somebody, a soul that's gone through a similar experience will help bring them to the other side if there's no family members there. Their grandparents could be there, but let's say they didn't know them. So they'll find somebody or a guide who will come through and now they bring them to the other side. This is a very, very frightening experience because you're being brought through a light and you've no idea what this light is. And it really is like the light that we talk about. It is so bright you cannot look into it. It almost like melts your eyes. And the best way that I can describe to you what the transition of the soul looks like, meaning that when it leaves Earth and it goes to the other side is, do you remember the movie The Wizard of Oz when we're all watching it in the beginning and everything is black and white, and then all of a sudden in the next scene it's vivid color, bright, beautiful, fabulous color. And that is the transition to the other side. We go from this colorful place or this dull place into this magnificent place. And once we pass over there, we're then reunited with whomever that we have lost. The soul then crosses over and it now knows that it can still communicate with its family members. They can still communicate with their children. They can still communicate, but they can also help. They're not just earthbound to a particular spot. So they can also help you with people, places, and things. The most important part about this is knowing that when the soul does cross to the other side, they get to go into their life review. And the life review is when they look back and they see how things unfolded or whatever happened to them or however they died. So you'll feel this lull. And people say to me, I'm getting no communication. I'm getting no signs. And there's a reason. The soul is healing and it's giving you time to grieve and heal. Remember, as long as I keep holding you, you still feel me around. You're never going to heal. You're never going to start getting through the grieving process. So the soul has to cross to the other side. Now, I've met souls that have never crossed to the other side, and they're ghosts, but that's a whole nother story. So when the soul crosses to the other side, they then go through the life review and the process of what's going on. And the life review can last for how many lifetimes you've ever done, or the life review can be something that's very quick. Remember, there's no time on the other side. So a day to us is a lifetime to them. Do you see what I'm saying? It's I have to do a whole nother special on that because it's very, very confusing. But when you get to the other side, the soul is immediately relieved of all its pain. It sheds all of its worry. It sheds all of its fear. It let goes of all of its panic. And now when they cross to the other side, they understand, I can influence the people, place, and thing. They get to the other side and go, oh no, my wife or husband is left with this house. I got to get it sold. So what does it do? It then seeks out other souls and other guides that are looking to buy a house for people here on Earth saying, oh, Phil and Jasper are looking at a house. And if it's a good house for us, they will guide us into the path of buying that. So they realize that they can help and they can do this. So the soul review is very, very important for people on the other side, because then as they go through that, they know that they can help us when we're here. I'm reading some questions here. Why do some people find it difficult to get used to being on the other side? People don't want to go, souls don't want to go to the other side if their death is untimely, because they had living to do. I've met souls, and I just recently went through this while I'm doing this topic, who the person left behind 2 young children and so on and so forth. And that soul is so earthbound because they're like, I screwed up. My behaviors were bad and it led to my death. And now I've left behind my fiance and my 2 children. And the person is in constant contact with the family to try and let them know that I'm here, I'm with you, I'm around you, I'm sorry, whatever the situation may be. Excuse me, I have allergies, I think. So it's very important that we recognize that this goes through. I'm reading some of these questions. Can a soul be afraid of going into the light? So, okay, Kareem, thank you for yes. So can a soul be afraid of going into the light? And might it be judged and sent into the darkness or hell as we speak? Okay, so here's what happens is, everybody asks me this question. Is there a hell? Well, not to my knowledge, all right? I always tell people your hell is what you make of it. Secondly, what I say is I've never, ever, ever, ever seen any place known as hell. I've only seen what I have witnessed, which is the other side. So some souls are, to my knowledge, God doesn't interfere. And secondly, we all get to cross to the other side. It's just on different levels. So that's what this is about. What about suicide, Phil? My nephew committed suicide at the age of 22. 2 things I want to answer that question. One, when you die, no matter how you die, if you take your life, if you accidentally take your life, if you're drunk driving or whatever the situation is, we all cross to the other side. Secondly, the soul continues to age. We will age to the age of 33, or we'll go back to the age of 33. But everybody on the other side is 33. However, when you're in here for a reading, they show me what they look like the way you remember them. They'll talk the way they'll swear if they swore a lot. They'll use certain phrases or whatever the situation may be in order to communicate with you. And I don't want to get off topic about this. But no matter what the death is, the soul knows what they've done. They know what has happened, and they know the impact that is left with their family. And in this case, we happen to be talking about suicide, and the case that I'm talking about, or the several cases I'm talking about this week, happen to be on suicide. So, and one of the things that people often ask me is, why didn't they reach out? Why didn't they know? When you're in psychosis, the last thing you're thinking about are the people around you. the only thing you can think about is your own horrendous pain. I don't know about you all, but when mental illness kicks in, my God doesn't judge. You have a right to address yourself whatever way, shape, and form. People struggle with the idea of suicide. They think their loved ones are somehow burning in hell. They think that their loved ones are suffering. They think their suffering was done here on earth. So when they get to the other side, they go through their life review and they go, whoa, that was a crazy ride. Why did I choose that type of path? Or they look back and they say, this is why I chose this type of path. I was trying to overcome this disease or whatever it is. So if your loved one or your guide does that, you don't need to go into the light. So, okay, do you believe that there's a God? Is it an energy or is it all composed of? Okay, so my explanation of God, I still want to end this topic. My explanation of God is I've never seen some dude sitting in a chair pointing down to earth saying, Phil did this, you did that, blah, blah. I've never seen anything like that, never. All I know is there's a greater energy, and that energy allows us to create contracts coming down to earth to certain things that we have to overcome and or get through. So going back to this earthbound souls that I started to experience throughout my life when my gifts started kicking in, I would go into certain places and I would turn around and there'd be somebody standing there and I was like, oh no, this is going to be. So I would tell the soul, look, you've been gone for an awfully long time. So people say to me, Phil, I have hauntings. Now I don't do paranormal activity. So, and there's a reason being is I just don't have time, even though it fascinates me. And it is something that I read about and it is something that intrigues me. I just don't have time to do it. But in this case, let me just use an example. So let's just say a person died in the house and that was their home and they never wanted to leave it. It was everything that they ever wanted. And they don't want to go to that light. Well, they stay here on earth, okay? So eventually time goes by, new buyers move into the house, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm like, Jasper, I'm going to take a sledgehammer to this wall, knock this wall out, and we're going to make this. And as I started changing the structure, energetically, the house is disrupted. So the person that is earthbound, who's been, let's say, in that place for 50, 100 years, whatever it may be, feels this disruption and sees my timeline, and they overlap. And all of a sudden, they're taken out of their space, what they know to be their house, and they're seeing me dismantle their walls. And they've no idea what's going on because they're still living their life as if they never passed. So that's when activity starts taking place in the house. Things start moving, things start getting thrown off the shelf because they're pissed. They're like, why are you breaking my house? So in that case, that's when we have to explain to the soul, your time is done here. You need to cross to the other side and be with your family and friends. And some souls are incredibly, incredibly stubborn. They don't want to leave. Some souls love living life. Another thing I want to answer about this is, should your loved one precede you in death? A lot of people ask me, Phil, are they going to be there when I get over there? You do not reincarnate until all your family members are over there, number one. Secondly, you choose to come back, you're not sent back. Thirdly, we don't come back in the same roles. We don't have to anyway. You can say, okay, to the parents, you didn't do a great job, or you did a fabulous job, or whatever, or I want to try parenting, you guys try. So we change these roles, but we do incarnate in groups. So a lot of the times people ask me, Phil, will they still be there when I cross over? 100%. Your kid's not leaving, they're not, because you'll get over there and they won't be there. I'm looking at some of these questions. If you see the deceased and you see the alive people, how do you know how they're deceased? Okay, so here's a great question. I often ask people this. How does Phil know when he's driving down the road if the person standing on the end of the road died in a vehicle accident or if they're alive? I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds. There's one thing the other side does not do that we as people do. So if somebody can answer it to me, I will be shocked. It will be awesome. But there's one thing a soul does not do, and that's how I can tell if they're alive or if they've passed. So, and I'll answer that question in a second. So here's the thing. The transition of the soul getting to the other side is a necessity. As much as our grief wants us to hold on to the person that we've lost, or we've tragically lost, or who we've suddenly lost, or whatever. Blink! Yes! Very good. The soul does not blink. That's how I can tell if the soul is alive or if they've passed over. there's no reason for the other side to blink. So that's how I can tell the difference. It took me a while. Crying's good too. It took me a while to figure that out. I'm like, how do I know the difference between you? Because I see and hear them like you see and hear me. And they're physical to me. So they're not physical to you, but they're physical to me. But everybody looks 33. So, and the only way I can tell who's who back in the day was they didn't blink. So that's very good. That's very, very, very good. Steve Areno. That's very good. So, going on here with this, it's, sorry, I just got a little sidetracked. So anyway, so with the souls that I have to help them get over there, I just simply tell them, listen, there's no reason for you to be in this house. There's no reason for you to go there. There's no reason for you to be here. You need to cross to the other side. They get over to the other side. They realize, oh my God, I can do so much more with my family. I can help them. I can give to them. I can love them. I can support them. I can do whatever I have to do now that I'm over here. So it puts them in a better state. It also gives you the opportunity to heal. They don't want us in a constant state of grief. They don't want us in a constant state of pain. But what they want to do is to be able to help us get through whatever we're struggling. There's not a parent I've ever met who's lost a child that's ever overcome it. So it's anybody out there, if they say that they know people and their kid's gone 5 years, 10 years, and they're like, they're not over it yet, there is no clock on grief. There's no rush on this. There's no way to tell somebody that you condense 20, 30 years into 5 years. It just doesn't work, guys. So we have to also be mindful when people are in grief. So I'm going to look at some of these questions here since Jasper doesn't have them, and I might have had some questions written down, but I'll look in a second. I've done microsense in my house and property since my husband passed. There are things I would like to be proud of. Surprised to be able to do things. Okay, so can we get an escort to the other side? All right, here's another question. This is why I had this. A lot of people are asking me, or people ask me, will my husband or wife wait for me when I get to the other side? Because I think people think that the person that they've lost, there's like floozies on the other side, and that they're going to, run off with some soul on the other side. In my entire career, I've never met a soul who says, oh, Phil, I'm a floozy. That's what I do over here for work. So it doesn't work like that. So there's not this, they wait for us. There's not this, they're moving on and they're going to forget about you. It doesn't matter if 20 years or 30 years pass. Remember, there's no time on the other side. So it's not the same thing to them. I recently told my mom to let go. It was okay, not to feel guilty. She passed within a few hours. Boom, that's the way we do it. We tell our loved ones it's okay to let go, that we know that they're not going to last, that it's okay we're going to be okay and we're going to be fine. We're going to be, hi Sharon, we're going to be okay and we're going to be fine. And it's okay to pass over. For the people who have sudden deaths, tragic deaths, however it may be, they're not quite ready to for that to happen yet, and therefore they want to hold on to the person, because if you lose your husband, wife, child, whoever it may be, aunt, uncle, whoever you're close with, grandparents, you just don't want to let go of that physical feeling, and neither do they. But once they're over there, the beauty is that they're here to help you. But there are no floozies on the other side. So here's the other thing too. Crossing over is a fearful thing, because you just, as I said this before, you see this huge white light and you don't know what to do with it. And anybody wants to jump in with questions, go ahead. But you don't necessarily know what to do with it. So, and for people, hopefully you have someone that has passed over before you that you were close with, or you knew, grandparents, mother, father, whoever it may be. They come and they bring the soul, even if it's in a tragic manner. Because often when people take their life, it's not necessarily immediate that they're found. So a soul will remain here with them, and as they're going through the process of being found. Is it true that the veil between here and the other side is thinner at certain locations? Yes. So there's certain energy points, Brendan, where, excuse me, I don't know where this cough's coming from. There's certain energy locations where people are able to communicate easier because the veil is thinner. What is the veil? Now, I know you all have heard this before. Hi, Amy. And the veil is very simple. Do you remember back in the 70s, 80s maybe, where you had those beaded curtains that would, be in a doorway and you would walk through them? It's the same sensation when you walk through it and you feel something just crossing over to you. That's the veil. You're crossing through it. Another way to know when someone enters the room is your ears all of a sudden pop and or ring. So, and that's an opening in the veil. It feels like wind coming through. So it's and that wind is the other side coming through and saying, I'm here with you. What happens when people are sick and they know that they're going to die and they come, oh, just popped up, and they come in your dreams an hour. So what happens is, if I know I'm on life support, if I know I'm in a medical induced coma, if I know that I'm in a situation where I know I'm going to pass, I'm able to leave the physical body. This is another thing that's true with people who have dementia or Alzheimer's, and they're able to leave the physical body and be on the other side, so there's no suffering. They can also visit you in your dreams. They just can't permanently cross until the physical body gives out. So that's why people will often talk about, oh, I had a dream of so-and-so, but they're still alive, but they're in this state. Or in my readings, I have people, it's crazy, I have people come in, mother and or father or aunt or uncle, who are still on life support or who have Alzheimer's, and they're talking to me like they're on the other side because they're still able to leave the physical body and communicate with their loved ones whatever way they want. If your loved one is your guide, does that mean that they haven't really passed on to the light? Nope. It means that they have passed on to the light, because you cannot guide somebody until you've crossed over and you've gone through the life review. So until you've done that process, you cannot guide anyone. Why, Phil? Because I need some knowledge. I'm not sure how I died. I'm not sure if I was successful. I'm not sure, and not monetary wise, I'm not sure if I got through my contract or whatever it may be. So once I go through the review, I see what I was successful at and I see what I failed at. Therefore, I can determine what I'm going to do or if I'm able to guide somebody. This is really inconvenient when Jasper's not here to try and read questions. My father seemed to be doing something bright, and he looked at me and he was viewing people, and he knew a few seconds before he passed away that the family members had come to see him. Absolutely. So I was just explaining this to somebody before, is that just before death, people often call out for their family members that are going to come and get them. They'll often talk about siblings or brothers or mothers or fathers or whoever else has passed them. And it often happens 24 hours before the death or 12 hours before the death, because they're telling them to come on, let's go. Your time is up. Your physical body is no longer available. Oh, here's a good question. Do you hear anything when you cross over? Meaning that when you leave the physical body and you're crossing through the light, do you hear anything? So the soul hears this loud swooshing. The best way it was described to me is it's like crashing sounds of waves. So, because they're going into a whole new energy zone. So that's one of the things they hear. So it's more than static. It's very loud, but it's not like a concert loud. It's like a soothing loud. So, hi, Katie. And so it's important, but they do have sound. So, and they know where they're going because they're willing to cross to the other side. How do you learn to forgive yourself? Okay. Here's a good thing that was also said, and he was a complete atheist, and I don't know what he was. He was a Buddhist, whatever. Steve Jobs' last words were, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Meaning that, wow, what he was seeing. Because he had an insight to seeing what was happening on the other side. He just all of a sudden had this opening to, oh my God, there's something greater than myself. So, and that was some of his last words. So I'm hoping I'm answering as much of your questions as I can. So I wanted to talk about this topic because I want you all to know that just because somebody passes doesn't mean they immediately get to the other side. Sometimes they sit around for a month. Sometimes they spend several months. It all depends on the story. It all depends on the individual. But most importantly, it all depends on the journey. And the journey being is that they have to get to the other side in order to help us, but they're not going to do it until we are ready to let them go. And until we are ready, they're not crossing. And there's no clock on to when you're ready. So don't feel pushed or rushed, or don't think that you're keeping people stuck here because we're going through their grieving process. That's part of their job. My aunt and her husband passed away, leaves dimes. Yes, so one of the other things too is, one of the cool things is when people pass over, what they'll start doing is leaving coins, or they'll leave dimes, or they'll leave pennies in the most obscure spot. Like you just dust it there and there's a penny. And you're like, there's just no way can that be. That's them just letting you know what's happening. A medium told me that I no longer have been passed and it's harder for them. A medium told me that the longer they have passed over, it's harder for them to come through during a reading. Well, I'm not sure for that medium, but for me, it's much easier because the longer they're on the other side, the easier it is for them to come through. However, I do get a lot of souls that if they are they look young and they look vibrant, I'm like surprised that they pass because they look so young, even though they may have been older. So it's but they all pass over. So I hope this answers some of your questions, particularly on this topic. Again, my Friday Nights for Phil starts tomorrow night for anybody that has signed up for that group. I'll be here at 6:30. I'll be back next Thursday with you all with another topic. Anybody that needs me, wants to schedule an appointment, please go directly to my website, philquinn.com. Greg is working with me, and so you guys will be receiving emails from him when you book an appointment. He's awesome. You can ask him whatever he needs. And again, if anybody needs me, go to philquinn.com, and I will see you all next Thursday with a whole nother topic. So out of body experiences. I gotta do a special on that. Thank you all. Have a great night. Stay cool. See you next Thursday. God bless.